Should essays be used in college admissions? Maybe? Hi everybody, my name is Greg Hancock, and along with my Jenga-playing friend Patrick Curran, we make up Quantitude. In today's In the Wild episode, we turn our Quantitude loose on college admissions essays, in particular, whether or not they should be used to make such high-stakes decisions, and talk about what issues we would need to have addressed in order for us to be able to answer that question. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Quantitude in the Wild.
What is the actual point of our organization meetings over the summer when I come up to visit you?
I think it's just that you come up and visit me.
I think that's it. And we go to Fogo de Chao and eat all the meat from a stick that you can consume.
And then get the meat sweats for 48 hours.
Get the meat sweats.
Well, that's it. I'm done. Whew. Here come the meat sweats.
Your dog licks me, which you know how much I love.
Your legs in particular.
But we go up and we get a whiteboard and we write out topics and we even order them. And this is going to go there and this, then we'll set this up. Mm-hmm. And then we just ignore the entire thing.
Yeah, that's right. Me and Tasty Legs here, we haven't even done half the things that we planned on.
Well, and the big one is we started the In the Wild stuff, which we're having fun with.
Yep.
But we had a bunch of these In the Wild topics that we were going to do. And we have somehow drunkenly fallen into college admissions. We were talking about the SAT, and then we were talking about the GPA, and then you and I have been texting back and forth. One of us, I don't remember who, but made a joke about college admissions being a Jenga tower, where if you remember playing that as a kid, you pull out each block, and then when the tower collapses, that person loses. I really do feel like college admissions is becoming this Jenga tower, is we're going to pull out the SAT.
Done.
All right. The tower still stayed. Uh-huh. A lot of universities, no more letters of recommendation.
Yep.
All right. There are major state universities, and there are a bunch of good motivations for this. Excessive workload on high school teachers, lack of discrimination among letters. So we pull that out. Then a couple of weeks ago, we pulled out the GPA. And then we're going to pull out class rank because class rank is based on GPA. And then you texted me and said, well, if we're going to do it, what about essays?
That's the last block.
It's the last block. And we've all seen these memes where there are these giant Jenga towers and there's a single block in the middle. And so we decided, let's go ahead and we're not going to pull the essay block because this one is a legit In the Wild, but we're going to poke at that block and see if we want to keep it or not. What is our premise for essays going to be?
We will frame it as a question. Should essays be used in college admissions?
Maybe. Did I get enough M's on that? Because we haven't done that in a while. Was that enough M's?
That was really good.
Maybe. And we have gotten a couple of emails from people who have said they've used the maybe response in romantic relationships where a partner will say something, and this is gender neutral. We have gotten feedback from all sides where a partner will say something and the other person will say, maybe, let's think about it.
Yeah,
so
we're a full-service podcast.
We are a full-service podcast. I like this one. Should essays be used in college admissions? Because you and I jointly have put 5 kids through the college admissions process.
Yep.
I remember when my kids' friends back in freshmen of high school, they would be over at the house. Mm-hmm. They were 14 years old and talking about college essays.
Yeah.
If you did this, could you make that an essay? 14-year-old kids. And that actually made me just kind of sad.
Yeah, totally. It's on their minds, and it's on their minds early.
My kids would always thank me because it has come up on past episodes that I have several very odd characteristics. One is I sleep about half the year out on the back deck because I really, really love just being outside. And so I have a futon and a sleeping bag. All but the heart of the summer and the heart of the winter, I sleep on the back deck. And there's a very small chance I have had a multi-year battle against squirrels in the backyard where I trap and relocate them. But my kids would joke and say, we're so lucky because our essays just write themselves. Is my dad sleeps outside and catches squirrels.
And those are the only two weird things about you, Patrick.
As usual, let's just start historically. And if you go back and dig into the history books, over 100 years ago, college admission was often based on entry exams or attendance in established preparatory schools, at least for the Ivy Leagues. There was a move back in the 1910s, 1920s, really to try to open up college applications and also to make it a more holistic kind of evaluation process. So the entrance exams would be kind of the classics and mathematics and music and physics and these things. And they wanted a more holistic thing. And that introduced the essay, which is write a personal essay that helps us get to know you as an individual. So the essay has been around for more than a century. And like everything we do in academia, we started feeding it steroids and then antibiotics and more steroids and more antibiotics that has grown into the creature that we have today.
And it hasn't just grown into one creature. There's this common app creature that we'll unpack in just a little bit, whose idea was that we don't want to have specialized essays for each college that you're going to want to apply to. So we're going to have this common set, and then colleges can subscribe to your responses to those. But it hasn't really worked out that way, right? Some universities will subscribe to Common App stuff. Some will throw in their own essays. There were some, and I went through this the year before last with Tate. I mean, there were some where he had to write 20 short answer things. There are some where he had to write between 2 and 4 extensive things. And then you would sometimes have to write them for the department or the college or school within the university that you were applying to. It's crazy.
No good idea goes unpunished.
Right.
The Common App was, let's not give our kids anxiety disorders. They can choose from these essay prompts, and then all the colleges will use them. Now, when we're talking, just like on prior episodes with some of these topics, every university and college is different. There are private schools and there are state schools, and different states have different criteria, and different campuses within states have different criteria, right? So there's huge heterogeneity. But there's this element of, well, we're not common. We need our own essay prompt. And so a lot of universities will do something like select 1 or 2 stems from the Common App and then pick 2 of 5 of our own special stems because we're not like everybody else.
You don't need to follow me. You don't need to follow anybody. You're all individuals. Yes, we're all individuals. I'm not.
Anyway, you looked up the current Common App prompts.
I did.
So for those of you who have kids, like either this is on the horizon or you're going through it now, or you're still in recovery from this, because this is a highly stressful task for everybody involved. So give some examples of Common App prompts.
Okay. Number 1.
Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story.
I have caught 258 squirrels.
And I sleep on the back deck and pee off the edge of the deck in the middle of the night.
Keep going.
All right, sorry. Number 2.
The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience?
All right, give me one more. We're not going to do all 7.
All right, one more.
Reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you?
Okay. So there's 7 of those.
Yes.
And we'll get into what is the purpose and motivation of these things. But, one of them with the personalized essays, part of the motivation is making the kid do a little bit more work for your particular university.
Yeah.
Some of these universities that have 20 or 25 individual prompts, there are a lot of kids that are like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
That's right. How bad do you want it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so just in those 3, and there were 7 listed out in the Common App, but what the heck are they trying to get at with those? How do you read that globally in terms of the Common App prompts?
Well, what is the intent or what is actual? Because I think those are 2 different things.
Wow. Well, let's start with intent.
All right. There's a laundry list and, nobody has these posted on what we're trying to get, as there are a lot of soft targets here. But originally, there was a lot of interest in writing skill. Grammar, punctuation, vocabulary, complexity, what I would think of as a Strunk and White kind of approach.
My name is Strunk,
and they call me White.
here to teach you how to put the pen down right.
I see that your writing is a little bit wild.
These are the
Elements of style.
One of the biggest marital issues I have with my wife, this is our 30th year, and one of our biggest marital issues, there are 2. When do you open Christmas presents, on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning? And second is Strunk and White. Okay. I have a very liberal comma policy, and we have had significant disagreements on the use of the comma.
Wow.
But setting that aside, one part is, are you able to write? What can you construct? What is the flow of your argument? And you know what? For decades, we've been able to machine score this kind of thing. Grammar, vocabulary, complexity, number of words, punctuation. It is an if-then-do loop kind of thing in programming. But there are other softer targets that are out that go into that more holistic evaluation.
When I look at these prompts, I see a genuine attempt to try to get at a broader picture of who this person is, whether it's in terms of, some hardship that they've faced, a challenge that they've overcome, why they're interested in my particular school, or the fit between their personality and what we have to offer here at University X. I mean, I see what could be taken as a good faith attempt to paint a much broader picture of the applicant than we would get just based on an SAT score, for example.
Why are you so frustrated?
Because I've never had any obstacles to overcome.
That's not true. You're lactose intolerant.
Oh, dear college, cheese makes me gassy. See you in September.
Sweetie, you're not really starting your essays, dear college, are you?
That feels noble.
Yeah, it does. And that term holistic is a really nice one, I think. It's come up before, and I've done a lot of years working in the undergrad admissions office here at Carolina. And I'll be completely honest, going in as a quant methods guy, my eye would twitch at holistic because I'm like, how do you score it? How do you rank it? Mm-hmm. And it didn't take much time at all to understand what that really meant, moving beyond numerical test scores and grades and class rank, which we've all taken away at this point. But setting that aside, you and I are both from snow states, and you're driving along and you got the radio on and everything's fine. And then you just have this sense that the back of the car has become unhooked from the road, right? You're not spinning yet. And anybody in a snow state knows what I'm talking about. You just know that you're not fully attached to the road anymore. And that's kind of where these essays go, because the one you read about gratitude.
Yeah.
Some of them are, you talk about grit, determination, overcoming adversity, these kinds of things that you could say, oh yeah, I mean, you need to have grit and determination and overcoming adversity. But then you just feel the back end kind of a little bit loose is, okay, gratitude, what are we after here?
In the spirit of that, I have someone waiting outside my my little recording studio.
Your huffing closet?
Whatever.
I love how he talks about it. Folks, I can see paint cans behind him. He has unboxed electrical wires. Look over your right shoulder.
Yes.
High voltage unboxed electrical wires sitting next to a stack of paint cans.
And sometimes when I can't tolerate Patrick, I just sit here and I sniff paint thinner to get through the recording episode.
Picked the wrong week. Quit sniffing glue.
But what I was going to say before you so rudely interrupted me was that right now, both of my boys are home from college, and Tate, who went through the application process most recently before choosing and now attending University of Maryland, he had to answer the very question that we're talking about right now about gratitude.
Seriously?
He did.
I mean, I knew we were going to do this, but I didn't know that was the question. I just picked it off the list.
Absolutely. And I have Tate ready to read to you the response to the gratitude item.
Okay, pull him in. I have not seen Tate in ages.
All right, hang on.
Hey, are you ready?
Tate!
Hey, Patrick.
Dude, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Okay, now this is a legitimate question. It is 8:45 in the morning. Are you starting your day or are you finishing your day?
Are you really going to ask me that in front of my dad?
Patrick, I don't want to know the answer to that.
Because I have stayed in your house and I have gotten up to use the restroom and you guys are gaming on your computers. So I'm just going to say you're on your way to bed, but we appreciate you sharing your essay with us.
Sure.
Okay, and just as a reminder, here's the prompt.
Reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you?
All right, Tate, go ahead.
Last spring, during one of the busiest stretches of my junior year, I was juggling AP classes, extracurricular commitments, and a quiet pressure I didn't want to admit to anyone. I told myself I could handle everything, even as I began staying up later, withdrawing from friends, and moving through each day on autopilot. What I didn't realize was that someone had noticed. One afternoon, my English teacher, Miss Rivera, asked me to stay after class. I expected a reminder about a deadline or feedback on an essay. Instead, she handed me a small card. Inside, she had written a note recognizing the effort I had been putting into my work, not just the grades, but the creativity, persistence, and seriousness she had said she admired. She added that she saw how tired I looked and wanted me to know that it was okay to ask her for help. The gesture was simple, but it surprised me in its depth. I hadn't told anyone I was struggling, yet someone saw me clearly enough to reach out. For the first time in weeks, I felt lighter. Her words made me feel valued in a way I hadn't expected. That moment has stayed with me. It taught me the power of noticing others, especially when their struggles aren't spoken aloud. Since then, I've tried to create that same sense of recognition for classmates, friends, and even family members. More importantly, I learned that strength isn't measured by how much I can handle alone, but my willingness to accept support. Miss Rivera's quiet kindness changed not only my semester, but my understanding of what true encouragement looks like.
Ooh, damn it, I'm going to cry.
So 2 things, Tate.
Yeah?
First, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Second, can I send Miss Rivera an email and say the reason that you look tired is you were up at 5 a.m. playing Fortnite? Because I was there.
Hey, I gotta go.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, go to bed.
Okay, so we know the intended purpose. We've got an example of stems that are answered by the vast majority of kids who are applying to colleges. And we have an example of a really good essay. Let's start using our Quantitude.
Okay, so as I listen to his essay, I mean, I have to admit, there's a lot of stuff in there that's more than just an SAT score, more than just a GPA, right? I'm getting a sense of him as a person. I'm getting a sense of things that are important to him. Because it's written, I'm getting a sense of his written communication style. So there's obviously a lot of stuff in there that I, as a university, am going to value. But I got to sort through it all, and I'm not quite sure where to go from here.
That's where we can use our Quantitude, right? That's the point. What would we need to know if what Tate wrote is useful in adjudicating among a set of highly qualified applicants? The premise was, should the essay be used in college admission? There's the stem, there's the response. What would we ask to say, should Tate's response be used in that admission process? So my question always right out of the gate is, what is the construct that you are trying to assess?
Yeah, that's the big validity question here. And I will tell you, I am not sure what the construct is here. Even when I think about the purposes of an essay, where we say, oh, we're interested in communication skills, we're interested in the technical accuracy of their writing, we're interested in whether or not they use too many damn commas, we're interested in whatever adversity they faced. So many different things for me get mentioned in discussion of these essays. What I would really need is clarity on what the targets are that we're trying to hit with that particular essay.
In that spirit, I looked up some scoring rubrics.
Ooh.
Because I thought we could let the tail wag the dog.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Normally, we would identify the underlying theoretical construct and then say, how are we going to numerically evaluate that?
Uh-huh.
Well, let's reverse engineer it and say, how are many colleges numerically evaluating it, which may give us some insight into what it is they're after.
Okay.
So Common App itself doesn't publish scoring rubrics for the essays, but if you go out on the inner tube, there are a whole bunch of published sample rubrics to be used on Common App. So here's one I found, and it consists of 4 dimensions: thematic development, meaningful topic, strengths, and structure. And there's a 1, 2, 3, and 4, and each one in the cell of that table has a definition, which is nice. So for thematic development, to get a 4, the essay retains clear and prompt fitting focus that develops a clear, consistent main idea throughout the essay. And there's a 3, 2, 1, and meaningful topic. Topic is extremely significant to the writer, something of great emotional, intellectual, or personal experience. All right, and then it goes on through. I won't read all 16 cells, but they nicely define each of those. And so those are 4 potential dimensions. Another major state university, it is not UNC, I found this online, but it is their rating rubric, and they have a 1 to 5 ordinal scale.
Okay.
And they have 6 dimensions: the idea, organization, voice, vocabulary, sentence structure, and grammar. And then they too have a definition within each cell. A 5 for idea has a clear, focused, accurate, and sophisticated main idea. For voice, reveals the author's own personality. For sentence structure, demonstrates meaningful variety and properly uses commas in a near or semi-near random. Oh, wait, no, that's... I misread that. So what are some things that we've got here? And again, every university does this differently. I did some looking last night and looked up some universities that are near and dear to me that I've gone through, University of Colorado, UCLA, and some just say we do not either publish the rubrics, or some say we do not have formal scoring criteria. Mm-hmm. They use it to contextualize the applicant in the life that they live. Now, S.S. Stevens,
Smitty,
who told us that measurement is the principled assignment of numbers to observations, rolled over in his grave just now. But those are the kind of things we see, right? Some remain the old school vocabulary, sentence structure, grammar, but others are looking toward thematic development, meaningful topic, how did it impact you as an individual? So it kind of seems like there's still 2 subdimensions. There's the structure of the writing in a Strunk and White kind of way.
One thing I ask of you is to learn your homophones is past due. Learn to diagram a sentence to always say to whom, don't ever say to who.
And then there is tapping into the things we talked about earlier: grit, determination, overcoming adversity, commitment, things like that.
You know what I didn't hear in those rubrics is I didn't hear where you're supposed to count the number of really awful metaphors that the applicant uses, right? If they're not mentioning like mountains or doors opening or windows closing or rivers or storms, then it can't really count, right?
The secret scoring rubric.
Now, I do have a question for you. Not every prompt that we encountered would lend itself to each of these particular things, right? So something about gratitude isn't necessarily about overcoming hardship per se or about grit. So are these applied sort of broadly across all of the responses that a person gives? Do you have any insight into that?
It is unclear.
Okay.
So the published university, you get a single numerical score from 1 to 5 across idea, organization, voice, vocabulary, sentence structure, and grammar. So you get a 5 or a 4 or a 3 spanning all of those dimensions. There's not a score on each one.
So across all dimensions and across all essays then?
Yes. Exactly. So all submitted essays, all dimensions, you get a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 5.
And what was the one that you mentioned that had the word sophisticated in it? That caught my attention. Which one was that?
This is kind of interesting. So in the rubric for idea, to get a 5, you have a sophisticated main idea. To get a 4, you get a complex main idea. To get a 3, you have an accurate main idea.
Okay.
So you move from sophisticated to complex to accurate.
And are those defined for the rater in any way that you can see?
I would assume in reader training, when I was in admissions offices, there was a very impressive commitment to training readers. I mean, like 20, 30 hours of training would go in.
Okay.
I'm simply holding a little table that was posted online.
Sure.
But I actually went through the training, and yes, every element is described, and how would you differentiate this? You're given sample essays to read where everybody reads it, and then you review. And then what's really nice is during the review season, they're anti-drift kind of training where every couple of weeks people are brought back together to make sure the criteria haven't changed. To be unambiguously clear, this isn't in the wild. We are not drawing conclusions on this. I have been through reader training, and these are really talented, dedicated people who are trained at the highest level. And yes, they absolutely have clear guidance on how you would differentiate those constructs.
And so then for me, in the using our Quantitude asking questions framing, I think a reasonable question that we can ask ourselves is, are those things that we value as part of the college application process? It used to be that we want you to be a good writer. And that was the main criterion that we had, the thing around which validity was built and scored. And now there's much more to that. It's about you as a human being. And a reasonable question for us is, are those important constructs for us in considering who should be admitted to college? That to me is a very reasonable Quantitude kind of question. What are we measuring, and do we value those things toward the goal that we're using those things in decision making?
And holy cow, did you bury a landmine with the word value? Not in a bad way, but we need to think about that very closely, because some people would say if it's not predictive of success in college, then it shouldn't be used. So we have a predictive validity issue. Was Tate's response to gratitude and appreciating what Miss Rivera did, is that in some way predictive of college success, right? That's one dimension. But you can equally argue we want to build a community of supportive, open-minded, helpful, empathetic students who are going to help one another. And maybe Tate's response didn't predict his GPA at the end of the first year, but that it's an indication of him as an individual and the type of person who the college wants to support and foster and kindle while they're there. So I don't know. Is that response predictive of his college GPA? Kind of doubt it. Does it give us a sense of who Tate is as a person? And that's a type of person we would like to join our academic community? Absolutely.
Right. So for me, originally it was about being predictive of success for the individual. And now it's sort of like whether it appears to be predictive of success for the institution. And I don't mean in terms of rankings, I mean in terms of functioning, in terms of community, in terms of creating this campus culture that you want. And we have to decide that that is something that we consider valid as far as success goes, not just success of the individual, but success of the higher education enterprise. And that to me is very interesting. It's very telling of the shifts that we might be undergoing as higher educators and maybe as a society.
And there is more and more empirical evidence that demonstrates the success of a kid in college is in part determined by the diversity in the community within which they are embedded. Whether that be racial or ethnic or urban versus rural or political perspective or socioeconomic status or domestic versus international, right? Having this more diverse community aids your kid in what they get out out of the college experience.
Yeah.
So I think we have a sense of the constructs. I think we have a sense of how they're trying to probe with the stems. But now we're going to dig up Smitty's corpse and say we need the principal assignment of numbers to observations. That one seems trickier.
Well, yeah, right. So anytime you and I are faced with numbers, the issue of reliability comes up, the extent to which one person might be consistent in their application of rating criteria, the extent to which different raters examining the same essays would be scoring those things comparably. This broader issue of reliability, how are things scored? Are they scored consistently? What's the nature of the training? And you alluded to some quite extensive training that you received as part of admissions stuff that you did there at UNC. These are things that I would have questions about. I would want to know about inter-rater reliability. I would want to know about the application of these scoring rubrics. And sometimes that information is open, as you showed us, and sometimes universities don't want you to see what's behind the door.
We worked with a lot of other universities in collaboration with the work that we were doing. The term that I literally heard universities use, we have our own secret sauce. And that made my other eye twitch. The university of whatever has their own way of selecting their own students reflective of their own values. And there is a lot of proprietary protection around that.
Wow.
Now, part of it is the secret sauce element, but also, in fairness to universities, if they lay out their rubric for evaluating, then kids are going to game the system. If they say, we value this less, we value this more, this is what we look for, these kinds of extracurriculars, then that's exactly the kind of application. But it goes back to your buried landmine, I think.
Value.
Because they may have low test-retest reliability, and they are all equally likely to succeed in college and can't be differentiated. But maybe you're trying to craft a kind of incoming class that has some heterogeneity and characteristics that you value. Gratitude is one of which. Well, then that essay is incredibly important. Right? And that goes back to the holistic kind of evaluation. I wouldn't wish college admissions on anybody. I mean, this is the most important and complicated thing. And I thank God people are willing to dedicate their lives to doing this, because UNC got 52,000 applications last year. And we enrolled something like 4,300 kids. One of which was not Tate because he turned us down.
He loved Carolina. It was just something about faculty members' weird comma usage or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
So we got the construct question. We got the scoring question. We got the reliability question. What else is on your list?
Well, I alluded to this, and that has to do with fairness and equity. If it's the case that some of the questions we're asking, for example, might lend themselves to a swath of experiences that certain segments of the population just don't have. You know, I really found myself during that summer in Nepal. That will be an incredibly compelling essay, but some kids just can't have had that kind of experience. So I think that one question we need to ask ourselves is whether or not the questions and how they're evaluated are lending themselves to a wide variety of responses being completely acceptable and being able to be evaluated in a way that transcends those kinds of experiences.
It was the most I ever threw up, and it changed my life forever.
And like so much of the college application process, that's maybe one of the biggest questions to ask about the utility of this. I did a lot of analysis of essay data, and we would have an essay prompt that said 600-word limit. And there were kids who were putting 75-word responses.
Wow.
Because they saw that as a limit. They didn't realize kids were doing 599 words for a 600-word limit. having first generation status where your parents are not able to help you through the process. My kids are the farthest from first gen status that you can get. Both their parents are faculty. My dad was a professor. My grandmother went to college in 1920. They're 4 generations, not first gen. But I had an interesting experience. My daughter, Christy, was a springboard diver in high school. She was not a national champion, but she was really good. She was recruited for Division I schools to dive. We would sit down and Christy would say, so should I use these videos from a practice of my dive or should I have them from the competition? My practice dive is better than my competition, but the competition dive shows that I was competing for nationals. Should I get the assistant coach to write for me to give a testimonial because he knows me better, but the main coach doesn't know me, but he's an Olympian? And my wife and I were like, absolutely no idea. It gave me this little edge of what it's like is you and I eat, sleep, and live this crap. Essays and scoring and grades and selection and all of this. There's a whole swath of the country that a kid writes a draft of an essay and shows it to the parent, and the parent does what I did with the diving. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, 75 words looks good to me. It raises a question for me also, and that is, I remember watching my kids going through the whole essay process, and it is a process. And I'm sure you saw this in your kids too, and there's this part of me that says, is this a necessary burden? Again, Tate was the most recent one to go through it. He must have had over 100 essays. Now, some of them were repurposed versions of things, but given all the different universities that he wanted to apply for and all the specialized requirements at those universities, I'd be shocked if he didn't have 100 essays, and I use that in quotes because some might be only 100 or 200 words, and some might be closer to 600, 700, 800 words. That is a massive burden on a kid who wants to get in college. A reasonable question to me is it worth this burden?
Ironically, that was part of the intent of the Common App.
Right.
We're just going to have one mothership of essays, and a college will say, submit 1, submit 2, whatever it might be. And again, because of force feeding the steroids and the antibiotics, Tate had 100 of these. It's stressful for the kids. It's stressful for the parents. Do you know my kids submitted their essays and they never showed Andrea or me anything? We gave no feedback.
Really?
And I had a dual reaction to that. One is I was really, really proud of them. As they said, I wanted this to be me. I didn't want some university professor grading the draft of my essay. And then I'll be completely honest is to say, ooh, I would have liked to have seen that before you submitted that. It goes back to that equity issue. There are some of these essays that are heavily influenced by parents or this billion-dollar prep industry where they're literally essay coaches that will help the kids write their essays.
That is a culture in the district that we live in. Who's your coach? Is she taking on any new clients this year? And it just makes you wonder.
The joke I would make, and was quite honestly asked to quit making it when we were at these admissions meetings, is we're losing the SAT, the GPA, class rank, letters of recommendation, and a lot of people are saying we need to rely almost entirely on the essays. It's holistic. It allows the applicant to speak to us. A couple of times I said, I completely agree. I absolutely think that this is the number one source of information that we can use, as long as we're comfortable with the fact that we don't know who wrote it and we don't know if what they wrote about is true. But other than that...
Okay, hang on, Patrick.
Can I come back inside for a sec?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Sure.
Did you tell him yet?
No, not yet.
Tell me what?
That wasn't really my writing. We were just messing with you.
Seriously?
I did my own for the actual Common App, but Dad told me to make a fake one to read to you. That was ChatGPT.
Wow.
Good, right?
You guys got me.
Okay, now you can go to bed.
Okay. Good night.
Okay, that really has been lurking underneath this whole conversation, hasn't it?
We have intentionally not raised it to this point because this is the paradigm shift in the entire essay thing. Do you remember the comic Stephen Wright?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. He had a one-liner that I loved about a humidifier and a dehumidifier.
It's my birthday recently. For my birthday, I got a humidifier and a dehumidifier. Put them in the same room, let them fight it out.
There are major players who are trying to use natural language processing to auto-grade essays.
Yeah.
And there are more and more kids using ChatGPT to write the essay. And we're almost moving of the ship toward the iceberg of having AI-generated essays be AI scored.
There's an app that anyone can use that does all the thinking and writing for you?
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be amazing. I can use it to grade all my papers and no one will ever know.
And what's terrifying is Tate gave the actual prompt with no additional information. It hallucinated Miss Rivera. It hallucinated. I love the little Trojan horse. That part of the stress was he was juggling AP classes and extracurricular commitments, right? My biggest weakness is I just care too much. You know, the humble brag. It invented that essay. This is such high stakes stuff. If you have an essay that is that good, right? That's as good an essay as a reader is going to get when they're reviewing applications.
Yeah.
You got it on ChatGPT within 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
The temptation there is overwhelming. It's just a chess game. You move, they move. You move, they move. This is just, I think, a new kind of clear and present danger, going back to my joke of, well, as long as you're cool with it may have been generated by a computer about a completely artificial event.
Yeah.
We could throw up our hands and say, we're just going to rank order everybody by SAT and just do it like 100 years ago. I quit. But we're not. None of us are going to do that. What would you do if we could still try to get in Tate's life, still try to get a holistic evaluation of what this kid is like and how he might contribute to the campus, but try to address this AI issue?
So I can imagine a whole bunch of things, but I don't know that any of them is going to turn out to be any better, right? I could imagine kids submitting recordings of them delivering some kind of response to an essay. Eventually, and maybe even now, that could just be AI. I could imagine there being an interview. And in fact, our kids have been through interviews associated with college admissions. But I also know that you can have a cell phone that listens to the question and is simultaneously generating responses while they're asking the question that you can, aside from a couple of little eye gazes off to the right, that you can pass off as your own independent thoughts. It is absolutely a chess match. And again, I don't want to say that people are inherently dishonest. This is all very high stakes, and people are going to avail themselves at both ends, at the student end and at the admissions end, at the humidifier and the dehumidifier end, to try to work this out. And I don't know how it's going to work out in the end. I really don't.
Either do I. I actually am a big fan of the essay if I knew the kid wrote it themselves about something that really happened. Yeah. I think they can be incredibly valuable. But in the current situation we are, not only where AI is readily accessible, but also, as you say, this high stakes thing. You know your competitors are having parents read it and having AI write it and having a coach. And so you can say, I want this to be me and genuinely me, but you are explicitly putting yourself at disadvantage.
Yeah.
Remember Lance Armstrong won 7 Tour de France's?
Yeah.
And he was stripped of all of them. And I thought it was so unfair because everybody was on steroids and he still won. He was the best roided athlete of all the roided athletes. It's not tractable to do interviews. We get 50,000 plus applications at Carolina, and we're barely able to do what we do here. I could envision that you create an account at UNC and you log in and you have a prompt and you have to give a recorded response or a written response right there. But I guess at the end of the day, cheater's gonna cheat. Oh, great. Now Taylor Swift is going to sue me.
Not yet, but don't push it, Patrick.
I mean, just a month ago, some guys with a rental truck ripped off the Louvre.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do. And maybe you just shrug and you say, okay, we're going to try to have a system that is as fair and valid and reliable as possible.
Yeah, and that's the best we can do. Thank you very much, everybody. In the wild, we don't have answers. We just have questions. And there's a lot of questions about college essays. Thank you very much for sharing this with us.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. You can subscribe to Quantitude on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you download episodes of This American Life to get good content for your own essays. And please leave us a review. You can follow us on X, Blue Sky, or Instagram. We are at QuantitudePod. And visit our website at quantitudepod.org, where you can leave us a message, find playlists, show notes, class syllabi, and other fun stuff. Finally, get cool Quantitude merch like mug stickers and notebooks from redbubble.com, where all proceeds from non-bootleg authorized sellers go to donorschoose.org to help support low-income schools. You have been listening to Quantitude, completely AI generated since episode 2.